Hello and welcome, my fellow nerds, back to another episode of Totally Bored, or if you're brand new here, thank you so much for tuning in. Today, we are going to be tossing out our net and seeing what we can catch. I apologize in advance, I'm a little sick today, so my voice is going to be a little bit off, but it makes it perfect that this is the game we're talking about today because this is a great sick day game for me. Today we are going to be talking about Conservas, a solo-only player game that's a decently small box with not too large of a table presence, but has a lot going on that will deliver a very fun solo experience. So if you're not a solo player, if you like to play in groups, you can still look into this game and just play it and have other people watch you and be making a group activity that way. Everyone can cheer on together as you're catching fish. All jokes aside, like I said, this is just a solo-only game that revolves around catching and tinning fish, or canning fish, however you want to look at it. And you're going to be doing this by pulling fish out of this bag to either catch or release back into the ocean to keep it populated. The biggest point of this game is to earn money, but a lot of these calendar months will also need you to conserve fish in the ocean, so you don't want to overfish, because even if you hit your money goal at the end of the month, if there isn't enough fish left in the ocean, you are still going to lose that month. So you have to be very careful on how you manage your resources and pull things out of here, and you're going to be able to use these fish in a multitude of ways. So before I get too deep into that, how this video is going to work is I'm going to give you an overview of the game. We're going to go into the things I don't like about it, and then the things that I do at the end. So how this game plays is you're going to pick a calendar month in the booklet here of different games that you can set up. It has all of the setup stuff that you need right there on it, as well as the goals that you need to achieve by the end of it. In front of me, I currently have set up the month of March, but these clips that I have going throughout the video will probably show different scenarios and different months. So in this case, I have 3 types of seafood available. I have clams, oysters, and octopus currently, or squid. I don't remember which one it is, I'll be honest. So I have all of the stuff that I need here in the bag, and then my goal for this one, I'm just playing the standard version. I need to have 40 coins, 3 octopus, and 4 boats by the end of the game to be able to win. At the start of the game, you are going to draw 2 boats off the top of the boat deck. Pick one to keep and put the other one on the bottom. So I kept one that will allow me to store 3 fish on it with a cost of 1 coin for upkeep at the end of the phases. So each day is going to be played in a set of 3 phases. Your first phase is at sea, where you're drawing tokens out of the bag, allocating them to different locations to achieve certain things, and just get set up for the other 2 phases. The second phase is inland, where you are going to be selling off fish to the market, using them to get upgrades, or just leaving them there and letting them disappear if you've actually put them on your boat. If you have left them in your sea area, they will go back to the open water later and be able to repopulate. In the third phase, which is the end of the day phase, it's kind of like an upkeep, where you're repopulating fish, you're refreshing the markets, and paying your upkeep costs on your boats. So to go into these a little bit deeper, during the at sea phase, you are going to be pulling out 5 tokens at a time. So at the start of the game, you're going to have a number of fish in there, as well as water tokens, because you might just come up with an empty net sometimes, or at least an emptier net than normal. So we're going to pull out 5 tokens here to start with. So I pulled 2 squid or octopus, whichever one it is, 2 clams, and an oyster here. So I can choose to allocate these however I want. Currently, I only have 2 places to put them. I have my boat, and I have the open water. Being that it's the first day, I might want to just make sure that everything can repopulate and get more stuff in my bag, because this is a bag builder. So the more fish that you put into this bag, the better you're going to be throughout the rest of the game. So usually early game, it is nice to just start populating as much as you can and really getting more fish in here so that you get less water as you're pulling. So I've pulled out my first 5 tokens, and I've filled my first slot. Again, since it's only the first turn, I still only have one other location to put stuff. So I'm going to pull out another 5 tokens, because I have to put 5 tokens on every card by the end of this phase. So the next 5, I pulled 2 waters, 2 clams, and a squid. So The calendar that I'm on, all of these markets have different rules to how they need to be filled out. This one specifically says at the top, the market rows must be filled from left to right. So I can't just skip around and start doing stuff wherever I want. I have to progress up, but it doesn't say anything specifically about once I start on one, I have to finish it. I can work on multiple at a time. So since my biggest thing is reproduction right now, and I already have 2 squid in my open water, but I pulled 1 and 2 water tokens out of my bag along with 2 oysters, but I only have 1 oyster over in my open water. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 2 oysters, or my 2 clams, and I'm going to put them in the water area at the bottom of my boat card, and then I'm going to keep the squid and the 2 water tokens. So that way I can sell off the squid or use it to buy an upgrade. Because I am going to have to, in this case, keep at least 1 fish on my boat to be able to use, so I can at least send the other 2 to repopulate more of the ocean. So that is the at-sea phase done and over with. All of my cards have 5 tokens on them, so everything is all accounted for. So now I go to the inland phase, where I can now sell off any fish I have available. Only ones that are on the actual boat are going to count. So all I have is this 1 octopus here. I'm just going to call it that for the rest of this. So the options I have are I can sell it to the market to get a single coin, or I have 1 card up in my upgrades market up here that costs 1 fish. These cards are all going to have different costs, and most are going to cost 2. The 3 options that they have is it can cost any fish, or just any 1 fish. There's another cost where it may require 2 of the same fish. And then the last cost is that it might require 2 different fish to be able to purchase that upgrade. So currently I only have 1 available in the market that only needs 1 fish to purchase. And this one says, I keep the traded fish token on this card once per round. I may discard all fish of this type and replace them 1 at a time with fish from the bag. So that allows me to, in this case, if I used the octopus for it, then I would be able to, anytime I see octopus, if I don't want to sell it off, if I don't want to be forced to use it, then I can put it back in the bag and choose what to replace it with. So that might not be a bad upgrade, since I don't need as much octopus as I do the other ones, but I do need to make sure that I have at least 3 at the end of the game to be able to win. So I'm going to use the 1 octopus that I have to purchase that upgrade card, and bring it down into my area so that I remember that it is an active effect. And that's only a once per round during the at-sea phase. As well, during the inland phase, you are able to purchase boats with any coins that you have available. You do have to keep in mind that boats do have upkeep costs at the end of a day, but when you first purchase a boat, you don't pay that upkeep cost for that day. So if I bought one right now, I wouldn't pay the upkeep cost at the end of this phase. I would do it at the end of the next day. So at the start of the game, I started off with 10 coins. The boat that I started with has an upkeep cost of 1, which I will have to pay. And there are 3 different options that are out on the market for me right now to be able to purchase my 10 coins. I have one that only costs 1 coin to purchase that stores 1 fish, but it has 2 for an upkeep cost. I have one that costs 4 to purchase with an upkeep of 1 that stores 2, and the one that costs 3 with an upkeep cost of 1 that stores 2. So for the purposes of early game and for wanting to populate more, I want to draw more tokens out of the bag to get more fish in my open water to really populate them out. So I'm going to use the 10 coins that I have here, and I'm going to spend 3 of that to grab the one that costs 3 with an upkeep cost of 1 that stores 2 fish. So spending 3 there, I'm going to take back 7. And then that's what I get to do for the inland phase. If you don't want to purchase upgrades or boats, you don't have to. You can skip it, and there are benefits to doing that, which I will get into here in the last phase. So that is everything for the inland phase. I don't have anything else available to sell. So then now we will go to the end of day phase where we are going to start populating our fish. So any fish that were left over in the sea area of our boats are going to go over to the open water. If we had any unspent fish that were in our boats, we don't get to do anything with them. They just go back in the supply and they are gone forever until you, well, resupply the bag. So we'll take all of our tokens that are left that are not in our boat, and they will go back to the open water. Water tokens are always going to go back into the bag, whether they're on your boat or not. They don't go anywhere. It's just water. And there are potential ways to add more water to the bag, so you definitely need to be careful about it. So here on our open water card, we have 3 clams, 2 octopus, and 2 oysters left. So what we do in this case is when we populate, As long as you have 2 or more of a fish type, it will be able to reproduce, and it will reproduce that amount of tokens minus 1. So since I have 2 of octopus and of the oysters here, they are going to reproduce 1 each. So I'll add those to my open water card. But with the oysters, since I have 3 of those, I will actually get 2 more instead to be able to add to my bag. So once all of that population has been done, I grab all of those tokens and then slap them back in my bag, giving it a good shake up to now have a refreshed bag. All right, so now I have gotten all of my fish back in the bag. It is time to refresh markets and pay upkeep costs. So since I did buy a card out of each market, I will just simply add a new card to each of those, not doing anything with the prior 2, or with the other 2. If I did not purchase anything from these markets during the round, I have the option to clean those up and refresh them. If you don't buy anything, if you don't like what's available, you can just wait a turn and then be able to refresh the market and come back and get them later. Or if you simply just couldn't afford the upgrades, but you really like them, you can choose to leave them there for the next round when you might have a chance to actually get them. So you do get a little bit of leeway in that regard as to what you have available there. It is still a little bit luck dependent on the draw of the deck, but the decks are also not super huge, so it's not too difficult to find the things that you're looking for, I've found. Okay, so markets are refreshed. I have 1 boat that I did not purchase this round that I do have to pay for, and that is my starter boat, and that is an upkeep cost of 1. So I will pay my 1 coin. I am left with 6 now for the end of this round. So that's the end of the day. I will move my day token on my calendar here up 1, and then just do all of that over again until I get to the end of the 7th day and see where all of my stuff is. Very simple game, not too much to learn here, but the depth of what you're thinking about and how you're managing what you pull out of the bag is a surprisingly puzzly experience. You find yourself making mistakes quite often. Oh, I should have held on to that, or I should have put that on my boat to sell off to the market to get some more coins so I can get this upgrade that I need. And there's just so much to think about in here. And you're constantly worrying about the endgame objectives, trying to keep up on everything. But if you find yourself starting to overfish because you're trying to catch back up to get to a point where you have enough money to survive the month, you might start overfishing, and then you have to start adding water tokens into your pool. If you run out of tokens in your bag while you're still drawing, you have to add water tokens to make up the difference. If at any point you run out of water tokens while doing that, that is the end of the game. You lose right there. You have overfished, and there's no way to redeem yourself. So you do have to manage everything very carefully on when you purchase boats, when you decide to do upgrades, utilizing your fish, or when you let those fish go back to the open water to reproduce. There is also a good element of luck to it between the cards that are revealed from the markets, as well as what you're pulling out of the bag, because you might pull out a 5 and think, oh, this is really good for this ship, I can really make this work. And then you pull out another 5 right after, you're like, that should have been on that boat instead. And it was just... and not necessarily an error, just an unfortunate circumstance of luck. So the way that unfolds is very nice. But let's get into the actual review now, and I'm going to start by talking about the things that I don't like. So this is the crowdfunded version that I got after market. It is the Spanish-English edition with the bonus upgrades that I haven't played with yet. It just added a couple of extra markets that give a different variety to the game. In terms of what I would say I don't like about this, well, first off, I'm not a huge fan of the tokens that come with it. There's these cheap little cardboard rectangles, or the 1 coins are little circles. I mean, they fit all right thematically, but they do feel really cheap, and that is kind of like one of the biggest things in the game. But just like with Libertalia, it's not as big of a deal to me because I do have my Roxley Iron Clay, so I bust those out and it's no problem whatsoever. There was also not a great storage solution for all of these tokens. They just come in Ziploc bags. Again, I remedied this problem by having my GameGenic game trays. You can do it with any sort of trays that you might have available to make it a lot easier to play. Outside of that, I mean, this is a game that feels like it should be something you can take just about anywhere and be able to bust out and play, but with just the expanse of the cards and the size of them, it is a little bit harder to just play anywhere. I've definitely found it to be a little constraining, and obviously the box is not the smallest thing in the world. It's still pretty small. It's about the height of a Final Girl box and then a bit wider. So it's not like super huge, but it is just big enough that it's a little harder to just travel and have a small game to take with you, which is what I feel like this kind of would do very well, but it just kind of doesn't. And I have other games that fill that niche, so I'm not too upset about it. I just really like this game, and I wish that I could take it more places. But I understand with the layout. I mean, with the boat cards, they definitely had to be this big to be able to fit all of these tokens on them. But I feel like maybe the upgrade cards could have been made a little bit smaller and have a little bit of a smaller footprint there. In terms of gameplay, I don't really have anything against this game. It's meaty, it's challenging, and they really work on progressing you through this calendar. It like each step does do a very good job of just getting a bit harder and harder each time, but you never feel like you're really out of a game. And when you do end up losing, say you end up running out of the water tokens, or you get to that last day and you fall just short of the objectives that you're going for, it doesn't really feel all that punishing because you still tried your best the whole time. You just made a couple of wrong decisions and it led to some problems. So there is that element to it. Obviously, it is sad that it is a solo-only game because I could see this being really fun to play with other people, but it is kind of hard to implement. And I do appreciate the thought into making a solo-only board game because that is how I play board games a lot, is solo. But I do get to play with other people from time to time, and I think something like this would be a great experience. But there are board games out there that are solo-only, but they have it to where you can just get more modules and then just play it alongside someone else. And I think that would be a cool enough experience if I could get another copy of this and then, be able to play it at the same time as my dad or something, just sitting at the same table doing our own thing. Then it kind of feels like a Euro, but you're almost in more of a competition with each other, and it could be kind of cool that way. But again, I appreciate the solo-only aspect to it, which means it was designed with a solo player only in mind, and it delivers a very good experience in terms of that. Let's go ahead and talk about the things I do like about this game, and there is a lot. I mean, I like the way that these cards are designed to do what they do. Everything does kind of give you that good ocean vibe to it, like you are actually at sea, casting out your net, catching fish, and doing all this different stuff. And it is a nice, relaxing game. It's a fairly straightforward puzzle, but how you approach it is what makes it feel so fun. And I just like it because it's a quick enough game to bust out in like half an hour. The setup doesn't even take that long. It's super easy to just get through and play. And like once you kind of get a grip on it, then you're just flying through days like it's nothing. And I really appreciate having a quick but thinky experience like this, that I could just come here, sit at the table, and just play for a little bit when all I have is a little bit of free time before I gotta go do something else. So having this to fill that time up, that experience, is so nice. And even if I'm just like having a full-on game day, sometimes I like to break up bigger games with something like this. This still keeps my mind flowing, but also lets me just have a quick game that I can appreciate and slow down a little bit so that my mind can refresh itself and get ready for the next big game, whatever that may be. So this kind of fits a nice space of a filler game if you're just having like a solo cozy game day. It really does fit that role really, really nicely. Or I'll even just play games of this back to back. Like if I finish a calendar month, I'll be like, you know what? I want to try my hand at the next month. So I flip it over, refresh the board, and just start playing again. And it's super easy. It's really not hard to just fill up a whole day with nothing but Conservas if you're really in the mood for it. And sometimes that just happens. It's a fantastic game, and when I first got it, I was playing it basically every day. I love it that much, and it's a good time. There's a reason it's in my top 10 list, at least as of when I released that video. And currently, it honestly still is. It's a very fantastic game. I definitely recommend it to anyone that can get their hands on it. I heard that there's a new release coming out soon, like a normal retail release, so if you're able to come across that at any point in time, obviously I recommend looking more into it first and checking things out. And of course, as always, if you haven't seen my video on how to save money in board gaming, go check that out first before you buy it to make sure it is something that you might actually pick up. But overall, for what it is, for as small of a box as it is, it delivers a really good experience. It's nice and cozy, it's thinky, it's quick, and it just hits all the right spots. So for me, despite all of the vanity stuff, not having like built-in storage for the tokens, and then having the really chintzy coin tokens, which I still keep, they're going to stay in the box, I'm not getting rid of them, but, despite those, this is still a 10 out of 10 game for me because it is just so fun. And honestly, I can't really say unique. I know there's a lot of other games that implement a lot of the same mechanics, but it's just such a good time. It's almost like having a solo Quacks of Quedlinburg, but not as push your lucky. You do get to make a lot of executive decisions that will impact the game a lot. So for that reason alone, it's a fantastic time, and I definitely recommend you check it out some more and see if it might be a game for you, because I do think it is a very good time and worthy of a lot of people's shelves, especially, once again, if you're just having those moments where you got like a quick half hour, 45 minutes before you got to go do something and you're not sure what else to do. You can just bust out a quick game of this and have a good relaxing time before you gotta go. So that's all I got for this review today. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you've played this game before, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well. To me, it's a very fun game, and it's going to live in my heart for a good while. Even if it may not always live in my top 10, it'll sit there for now, and it'll continue to get good play at my tables. So thank you guys so much for staying with us today. As always, us here at Nerd In, hope you enjoy your stay, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace out.